Hello, everyone. That was quite loud. But I don't care. It is Thursday. The political recess has started. Oh, what's happening? It's my headphones that's happening. I digress. Hello there, it's Stevie. You are tuned into the ABZ podcast. Finally got a name. We've finally got a name. It's locked down. ABZ. Hosted by me, Stevie, from Kincorf, Aberdeen. Working class political commentator, media student, podcaster, documentary maker. There's a whole lot of other stuff I could say there, but I'm not going to. If you want to see what I do, follow me on Twitter at Stevie C. Smith. You can find me on Periscope, which I broadcast when I'm recording this podcast. You can watch it be recorded live on podcast, which is great because then you can see my face. What a surprise, or what a prize, or maybe a bad surprise, who knows. But yeah, I record everything live on Periscope for that live feeling. So if you want to join in with the shows in the future, follow me on Twitter at Stevie C. Smith. Then you can find me on Periscope when the shows are live, and you can come and join in, and you can throw abuse at me and telling me I'm wrong and all sorts of stuff. But that's cool because that's just how this thing works. So what is today's podcast about? Well, it is February 2018. As I said at the start of the show, we are in the political recess. One moment. No. Yeah. My Periscope's everywhere. So yeah, we are in the political recess at the moment. And we all know what happened last year in the political recess. Theresa May went hill walking with Philip, and she had her bright idea to call a general election. So what's going to happen when she comes back from her? Is she going to come back from the political recess this year and think, you know what, maybe a general election again is another good idea? It's very possible. If we look at the state of current UK politics currently, it's a freaking mess. There's no simple way to get around it. UK politics is a mess right now. It is a total shambles. How can we fix politics in Britain just now? I mean, it's really hard to fix politics in Britain just now because the Tory parties have power. They have power. They've bought power. They've bought off the DUP, so they have their power. And we're stuck with them until the general election's called. But thankfully, Theresa May is running the country into the ground even harder than David Cameron did. She's took control of Brexit. She's stopped anyone else having any sort of control over Brexit. So she's currently leading the country right down the garden path when it comes to Brexit. And generally her party doesn't like her. Most of the electorate doesn't like her. So what's going to happen to her? What's going to happen to Theresa? The only way I can see this being resolved is by a general election. Because if the, like, let's say the Tory hard right that are trying to take over the party actually manage to do that, are the public going to actually put up with that, with another unelected leader coming in and just taking us into the medieval period with a hard Brexit and human rights out the window? Is that really what we want? I don't think so, and I don't think that's what the Tory party wants. So I think that before anything could actually get that far, I think a general election would happen, because it's the only way Theresa could get out of this, head for the hills, and then leave it up to the electorate again, so we can have the blame, us the voters, for politicians making up crazy things and thinking it's never going to happen. Because that's what's happened. But I digress from that starting rant, because that was a bit of a rant. So what are we here for today? I think Theresa May might well be coming back from her holidays with an election in mind. I mean, the odds are pretty strong that there will be a general election. Unless things magically stabilise, we are going to have another general election this year. Or another one. We are going to have a general election in it this year. So in this week's show, I'm going to be going over 5 ways that the Conservatives, the Labour Party, and the Lib Dems can change or alter or maybe start doing something different in a way that can get them more votes. So, well, if you're the Tories, you want to hold on to power, you want to grasp it. If you're the Lib Dems, you want to get some power back, because the Lib Dems have lost a chunk of power. And of course, if you're the Labour Party, you want power. I mean, I'm a Labour voter, so I'm not going to be about the bush there. I would prefer Labour and Corbyn to be in power, but that's my personal choice. I'm not telling anyone else to do that, because it's a free political world and we're allowed our own choices here. for most people, well, I mean most voters, I would imagine that everyone pretty much knows the ideologies of the Labour Party, the Tories, the Lib Dems, the Greens, SNP, and so on. So I'm not going to be looking into their ideologies per se, not to a big extent. Instead, like I said, I'm just going to be looking at little things that can change. I mean, Labour's on the precipice of power. Change is afoot in Westminster. And it's a case of, they don't want to, I mean, the parties can't change too much, or they're going to lose all votes they've maybe had. This is a real strong chance of this sort of thing happening in this time period we're in just now. So let's have a look at it. Who should I go with first? Let's see, first of all, I think what we'll do, because I've got a ton of notes for this. A ton of notes. I think we'll start with the Liberal Democrats. So, the Liberal Democrats' biggest problem at the moment is that within the House of Commons, 650 ministers, they only have 6 MPs. So with the Lib Dems, in the case of a next election, for them, it would be a case of winning seats back to survive as a party. And to regain, because Lib Dem has fallen big time since the wins of Clegg and the coalition with Clegg and Cameron. So they really need to focus hard on winning them seats back. And I mean, they're seats that can clearly be won back by Liberal Democrats because they've held them before. So for the Lib Dems, let's look at 5 things the Lib Dems can do to win those votes back. Dead air. Sorry, I was just having a sip of my tea. Sip of tea for the working man. The most British drink on the planet. So, the Liberal Democrats. Before I get into anything, I just have to say that Liberal Democrats have to be really careful about diluting opposition. They think they're doing it tactically, but that is a fail, because all that's going to do is leave Tories in power. So, if you're a Lib Dem voter, I just want to say that from the start. Tactical voting's all good, and trying to persuade people into tactical voting and voting against Labour and stuff, that's all good, but just remember that if you're unhappy with the current situation in Britain just now, the current situation is being caused by the Tories, not the Labour Party. So tactical voting against the Labour Party is only going to keep the Tories in. That's the last I'm going to say of that. So number 1, on the Liberal Democrats list of things they can do to win votes back, I think they need to stand up and take ownership. Number 1, that is. They need to stand up and take ownership for their half of the problems that were caused by David Cameron and Nick Clegg. They need to shed this stigma of being the Yellow Tories and apologise for at least some of the modern issues that exist from that period of politics where the Lib Dems were in coalition with the Tory. You know, things like austerity, NHS funding cuts, student fees. They need to apologise. They need to stand up. They need to just take ownership of the fact that they were part of this problem. I think if the Liberal Democrats did that, they would win a hell of a lot of respect. Possibly winning back some of the people that they've put off since the unholy alliance of Clegg and Cameron. Number 2 for the Lib Dems. They need to... In their next manifesto and campaign, they need to abolish student fees. They need to take a massive step back from what they did with David Cameron, change a mistake they've made, because that one thing they done really, really pissed people off. And I mean, I'm a student now. I mean, I'm a student in Scotland, so we're blessed. We don't have to pay for our fees. But in England, like, I couldn't go to university in England. Well, actually I could because I'm Scottish. But if I was from England, I couldn't do what I'm doing now because of what they'd done, taking in the tuition fees. So I think abolishing tuition fees, especially in today's current climate where the youth vote seems to be such a big thing, just saying you're going to get rid of the tuition fees would be a massive, massive step. Number 3 on the Lib Dem vote winning list. Now this is a really simple one. It might seem a bit harsh, but it's not the only harsh decision I'm going to take in this. I think the Lib Dems should retire Vince Cable. He's a relic of the old Tory Lib Dem coalition, and he'll always be seen as part of the modern downfall of the country that we are seeing right now. I think it'd be good to bring in some fresh blood. Now, I say that. Vince Cable's a good bloke. He's a good politician. He's had a great career I mean, he's one of the oldest people in the House of Commons, which is it's really awesome that he's still working hard in politics. But, and it's a big but, Vince Cable was part of the Lib Dem Tory coalition. So he's always going to be seen as that middleman between the Tories and Lib Dems. He's had a great career. I think it's maybe just time for Vince Cable to just enjoy it. Just retire, enjoy his life. Simple as that. And I think it'd be a good step for the Lib Dems to take. And that takes me into number 4. Make Jo Swinson the leader. Now, that might come out of nowhere, but she would be a really great choice in my opinion. I mean, she's got great charisma, and she's really good. I mean, I've seen her on Question Time and a few other broadcast media programs, and she's really good at pushing the Lib Dem ideologies and policies in the way that makes it feel unique to them. And it feels like they want to look after people. She gives that impression, which is what they really, really need. It would be a radical yet progressive move, and it would put the Lib Dems on a really good footing, because currently having a female leader is seen as a really good progressive thing. So I mean, at the moment, it's Vince Cable that's running Lib Dems. They could, as I said, retire Vince Cable, get Jo Swinson in leading the Lib Dems, and I think it would not only get rid of the Tory stigma that's still stuck around the party from the coalition, but I think it would really drive them forward as a progressive force in politics. So I think that would be good. Jo Swinson is the Lib Dem leader. If it happens, you heard it here first. And number 5. The Lib Dems need to stop copying Tory methods within the media. They need to stop trying to bash Labour along with the Tories. Simple as that. The Lib Dems must stand alone as their own entity. Every time they copy Tory rhetoric or propaganda, like copying Theresa May's slurs verbatim and taking aim at Corbyn, it just makes them look like they're friends of the Tories. And they're never going to win back the votes they have lost over the last 5 years and build a strong Lib Dem unless they get rid of that Tory cuddle that they've had. Because I mean, people see Lib Dems. I see Lib Dems as that, and it's all because of the coalition. And it's unfair, because the Lib Dems were a really strong party with their own values, their own manifestos, their own ideologies, and that was with Clegg, but before the coalition, before he sold out. I mean, the Lib Dems of 8 years ago were a party I would have voted for, like hands down. I thought they were really good back then. They were unique, and they took a stand for true liberal, yet centrist views. If the Liberal Democrats can shed what remains of its murky past with the Conservatives and appoints a leader of the quality of Jo Swinson or someone up at that level, then they will have a much better chance of winning votes and becoming the political power they once were in Westminster. So there you go. That's my 5 things that the Lib Dems can do to win their votes back. It's as easy as that. It's as easy as that. I don't know if you disagree with them, or if you agree with them. Let me know. Twitter at Stevie C Smith. You can podcast me. You can email me, podcasts@worldoftrash.co.uk. Mailbox is always open. It was tea time. There's a lot of reading in this. A lot of reading and speaking. And I needed some tea. Moving swiftly along, let's get to the second part of this. The Tories. Dun dun dun. Yes, I'm talking about the Tories. Me, Stevie, I'm away to give the Tories some ideas on how to keep power. I feel a bit sick that I'm away to actually do this. I hope that Theresa May is not listening while she's all away walking the hills, because I don't want her to take these tips and actually fix the Tory party. I'd much rather they went away. But as I felt I had to give a nice balanced view on politics with this podcast and this show, I'm going to do 5 things that the Tories can do to hold power. So for the Conservatives to win, they don't need to make these big promises, because they are already in power. All they need to do is make a few little changes to their current policy, and that would do a lot more than many things that they've been doing currently. I think if they just tweaked a few little parts of their policy, it could change the opinions Of those against them, including the current Conservative voters who have been betrayed by the hard right mogmentum, I hate that word, side of the party. I hate him. He's an idiot. But I digress. I'll maybe rant about Rees-Mogg some other time. But yeah, the Tory party, they need to build faith because there's a lot of people leaving the Tory party and they're like maybe moving their vote over to Lib Dems because of the current hard right of the Tory party, which is trying to take it over. And by that, I'm talking about Boris, Michael Gove, and Mogg. Because they are all pushing, and they've got other people with them like Peter Bone and the such who are trying to take over the Tory party and push it into a really nasty, hard right sort of direction. So I believe the only way the Tories can get out of this issue without the right taking over the party is with a general election. So they literally can't have power, even if they do manage to take over the party. But regardless, if the Tory parties need to, if they want to win these votes back and they want a solid base of power in Westminster, here's 5 really simple things the Conservatives need to do. Number 1. Now, number 1's got 3 parts to it, but it's number 1. Top of the list. End austerity. Simple as that. Raise the benefit cap, remove the benefit cap, raise benefits, end bedroom tax, end and roll back to pre-cut cap levels of benefits, disability benefits, everything like that. Give people the money back that they've lost over the last 6 years or whatever it is. And just pay attention to people. End austerity. There's no need for it. It's been It's been proven very, very, very categorically that austerity has been a complete waste of time, because for every pound that they've saved, another 2's went from another part of the government and been wasted on things like Carillion or any other sorts of vanity projects the government's been rolling out. Which is maybe not vanity projects, but you know what I mean, stupid projects that the government shouldn't have been spending all that money on. Number 2, publicly clamp down on tax avoidance. Now, I think the Tories are never going to do this. Never ever. But if they clamped down on tax avoidance, like closed all the legal loopholes that stops it being evasion, then I think people would trust them. Because if they stopped all the people avoiding tax, then our systems would have a lot more money in them. Nice and simple. Number 3, end all student fees. So that's for nurses. Student fees for nurses, get rid of them. Student fees for students, obviously, get rid of them. Just stop making people pay tuition fees. I mean, obviously you can have private schools with a higher education and fancy education. I've got no problem with that. People can pay for education if they want, but people shouldn't have to pay for education. There should be free education for all, at all levels, for the kids leaving school, and for people like myself who maybe think later in life, like, I want to actually do something better with my life. Everyone should have that chance. And I think it's really unfair that the Tories took away tuition fees, well, obviously with the help of Lib Dems. If they stop that, give people back that little cushion, just that little bit of money back, well, a bit of money back, they just don't charge them that in the first place. Again, they would win votes back, because people like free education. Who would have thunk it? Number 4. Restore the NHS's yearly raise back to 4% as soon as possible, and look at ways for the money that has been taken away over the last 6-7 years to be put back into the NHS so it can be fixed and made more robust for the future. Do I need to explain that anymore? David Cameron, this is why the NHS is in such a mess just now. Every time the Tories come into power, they cut the NHS budget. It's like a cliche Tory move. When David Cameron came in, the budget, the funding is supposed to be set at 4% extra on top of the funding extra per year, so that it's got money to grow. David Cameron cut that, I think it was to 1.7 or something like that. So it was at 1.7 for a few years. Then Theresa May thought she was being kind and put it up to 2 point something percent. Again, so we've had all these years where the 4% that the NHS needs to like actually function properly has been taken out of it. So this is where the black holes came from. This is where the funding gaps have came from. So I just think the Tories need to do that. They need to just say, look, we're going to stop cutting the NHS. We're going to put the NHS budget back up to what it was before, and all the money we've taken out of the system with austerity and cuts, we're going to put back in the system so you can buy new hardware, you can train people up, you can do new things. That'd be cool. That would win them a lot of votes. And maybe as part of the NHS, but get rid of Jeremy Hunt because no one likes him and he's a pretty crap minister. And number 5. If the Tories want to win the next general election, now this is a bit ironic, this one, because I've just said how we want to kind of avoid this. They need to get a new leader. Theresa May needs to go. There has never been a more useless or redundant leader of this country than we have now. She has displayed no power. She's constantly ridiculed by her party. She doesn't have her party behind her. She's literally just a figurehead because they're too scared to have another general election or get rid of her. Because the party is scared that it loses its grip on power. Which is really sad because it means that, like, Britain is essentially being held in place in this current power structure by a party who care more about themselves holding power than they do about looking after this country. And it's easily proved. The UK is being run into the ground just now. Politicians on all sides seem to be ignoring the issues at home. They're all thinking about Brexit and everything, and that's cool because Brexit is really important and they need to work on ways to either stop it or alter it so it doesn't affect everyone in the future. At the same time, though, there's a hell of a lot of problems at home, and the Tory parties are in power just now and they're not fixing them. Theresa May can't see the wood for the trees, and it's her that's in charge just now, and it's her that's overlooking all these things. So if they get rid of her, I mean, that would all be part of the general election, I would assume. So, I mean, for number 5 for the Tory thing, I think they should just call it quits with Theresa May. Have her step down, and when she steps down, call a general election. There's no problem with Theresa May being an MP. She can still represent her constituency, because clearly they like her. She wouldn't be voted in. But is she leader material? No, she's not. And I hate saying stuff about that, like that about people, because I would hate to be on the other side if she somehow heard this and heard me saying that she's not fit to be leader. So if it was someone saying that about me, I'd be heartbroken. But the evidence is there, and it's like, you just need to look at the news every day, and you can see what she's doing and what she's not doing. I mean, for me, the most damning bit of evidence is Grenfell. Just how she acted around that whole Grenfell situation was just disgusting. And that is not befitting of a leader. Not at all. So yeah. Number 5 on the Tory list, they need to get a new leader. One moment. A little sip of tea for the working man. A sip of tea for the learning man even, because I'm learning. I'm trying to find a job at the moment. Hence the podcasting. But of course, if you want to support the podcast, you can check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/StevieABZ. Or you can buy some stickers and t-shirts from my merch shop. The link will be in the comments below. Now to the last segment of this show. I don't know if it's went as good as I thought it would have went. But I constantly think what I do is crap. Every single time. Like, I hate it because I've got to listen to it back a million times. And I'm bored of hearing my own voice. But let's hope it. Let's just focus on finishing this off. So, as I said at the start, I'm a Labour voter. I'm a Labour Party member, actually. I'm actually looking forward to the conference. Scottish Conference is coming up next month. My tickets are booked. I will be going to my first political conference in Dundee, I believe it is. So that should be fun. But aside from Scottish Labour campaigning, we need to look at and what would happen at Westminster if a general election happened, because that's the topic of this goddamned podcast, is how to win a general election. 5 ways to win the general election. And here we are, we're on to Labour. So, Labour may still be smouldering after the Corbynista wildfires of 2017, but as we know, they did not win. Labour made massive gains last year thanks to the changes made within the party, but they still have a lot of work to do, especially when they have the right-wing media constantly on its back, throwing all sorts of allegations at them, mainly revolving around Corbyn being a commie. The latest one today, The Sun posted a thing about how Jeremy Corbyn spoke to a Czechoslovakian spy. So that was pretty funny because Czechoslovakia is not even a country now. So I don't know where the relevancy in this story is. It's like, Corbyn's a lefty. Yeah, we kind of know. That's like saying, that's Stevie ABZ, he's Scottish. It's like, yeah, but no. I'm not going to do any more of them examples because I'm going to end up digging a hole and saying something really stupid. So for Labour to win, for Labour to win the next election, even more changes need to happen in the party. So this is Labour's 5 ways to win the next election. I butchered that last paragraph. This is Stevie's things, right? This is my things. This is what happens when I read off my own scripts. I'm dyslexic, so when I read my own scripts, it goes to crap sometimes. Regardless, this is 5 ways or 5 things Labour Party can do to win the next general election when it comes. So, number 1, the party needs to win over Scotland. The Scottish vote. I mean, we've seen that back. Not the last general election, the one before. Even when we voted in all SNP into the House, it never really made a difference. But if they were all Labour voters, that would have made a big difference. And of course, Labour used to have a massive following in Scotland, which a lot of them have went over to the SNP. So, what needs to happen? Labour clearly need to start getting those Scottish seats back. Get them back. Kezia Dugdale, give me a sore head, because Kezia Dugdale really shot us in the foot when it came to Scottish votes. I mean, at the last election, she was telling people to vote Tory. I am so glad she's not the leader of the leader party in Scotland now. She's gone, thankfully. But yeah, she never helped it. And she messed everything up. She messed everything up. And she put Scotland off voting Labour. So Richard Leonard, the party in Scotland, we need to win back the Scottish vote. And a good thing that could help win back Scotland would be to point out, as I said in last week's podcast, that Scotland actually do have a solid mandate to remain in the EU. If the Labour Party started pointing out this, they may well win the Scottish vote over and overtake the SNP back to where they were before. Number 2, the Labour Party need to make promises where they make it categorically my language is crap today. They need to say that they're going to target the rich and give it to the poor. Simple as that. There's all these problems with tax loopholes, tax avoidance, all these rich people like, well, that idiot race car driver who bought a private jet, hires it to a company, hires it back to a company, then hires it back to himself, just so he doesn't pay tax. This is all people that stay in the UK and they use the UK's services, but they get away with paying tax. The Labour Party need to take a stand, and it needs to be in their manifesto that people like that are targeted. That the millions of tax that they should be paying here in VAT or whatever is getting paid. Because that's one of the massive problems just now. We live in a system of trickle-down economics, yet the trickling is only going into the rich people's pockets because, now, I've always said this, you don't get rich by spending money. And rich people know that you don't get rich and stay rich by spending your money. That's why tax avoidance is a thing. So whenever they've got the chance to do that and save the money, they're going to do it. The Labour Party need to take a stand. They need to be hard line about this. Really hard line. I.e. setting up as like laws. Like promising laws to tackle this. Not just statements and setting HMRC out to do that. Because they always seem to not manage it. I'm talking take real hard action against tax avoidance. Take that money from the rich. Give it back into the system. And more importantly, give it back to the people who need it. Rant of the day, that. Number 3. Now this is radical time here. I think it would be a good idea for the Labour Party to find a new Shadow Chancellor / number 2. Like, John McDonnell is someone I really like. He mirrors a lot of the things I like to stand for, and I agree with him a lot. But when you've got him and Corbyn up front of the Labour Party, that can seem a bit too red / commie for a lot of people, because it's known they're good friends that go back, and they're they're both really socialist. I mean, and obviously this goes against what I would normally say, but I think to win some Labour votes back, I think it would be really good for Corbyn to appoint someone from the PLP side of the party into the number 2 / Shadow Chancellor position. Was it Owen Jones? Is that the reporter, or is that the MP? The Welsh guy. He would be a great person. The Welsh guy that started the leadership battle against Corbyn. I think he'd be a great number 2. He represents the PLP, more centrist side of the party, and something like that would be really good. So it would stop people. It would stop the media being able to have pot shots at Corbyn and the socialist side of the party so much. Get rid of the opportunity for pot shots, and I mean, that's more votes. The less bad publicity that can be created, whether it's bullshit or not, means the more good publicity that can come out of it. So number 4. They're already doing this. They need to solidify the promises to refund the NHS back to the 4% per year level. They need to refund the money that the NHS has lost through the Tories' 7 year of cuts. We need to do this, or they need to promise this, so we can upgrade the NHS so it's like ready and fit for purpose for the next 10, 20 years. On the same note, they need to take rail post back into public ownership, because these services are just getting run into the ground. The mail service is rubbish. Not all of them. There are really good posties out there, but the Royal Mail as a company are a shower of crap. And of course, the trains. Need I say more? The trains are insane. They're late. They're getting up to the same price as catching a plane in the UK, which is ridiculous. Because that's not, trains are supposed to be affordable. So yeah, number 4, solidify the promises to refund the NHS and take all these bits of the bits of this public system to travel and stuff. You can see me on Periscope. I'm panicking because I've lost my train of thought completely. Take all these things that are broken back into public ownership. They're public services. They should not be run by private companies. They need to be run by the public. And number 5, last on the list, number 5, the 5th thing the Labour Party can do to win the next general election is just to stand up and do something different regarding Brexit. Oppose a hard Brexit and very publicly change the party's line on the single market and custom union. Taking this radical action will help the party. If the Labour Party, if Jeremy, right, now we all know, right, and now this is one of the things I've always respected about Corbyn. He's always been Eurosceptic, and he's always stood by that. But in the referendum, he never politicked for either side. He let people make up their own minds. I think the evidence is too much now. It can't be denied that leaving the single market and customs union and Brexit in general is going to be a really bad idea. Corbyn, he needs to change his line on this. And if he does this now, before a general election is even called, then it's in the bag. Labour will win it. If Labour say they will stop Brexit or do something to really try and stop Brexit by taking control of the country, all that waves of people that are trying to say Corbyn's this, Corbyn's that, and poison people against Labour, they are all going to be made instantly impotent, because that's the fuel they've got, is that Labour have got this stance. They're not changing their stance. I mean, me personally, I don't think they're changing their stance, because it makes no point for them to change their stance. There's no general election, and the Labour Party aren't in power at the moment. But, as we've been saying in the whole point of this show, an election is probable. It's more probable than not that an election will happen this year. And they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to do it. So number 5 in the list, for Labour to win power, they just need to change their stance on Brexit. It is that simple. And as a wise man once told... Now, this is a line I just threw in at the end. A wise man told me, Labour may not want power at the moment. Because whoever's got power in the next few years are going to be the ones who oversee Brexit. And Brexit, it's going to be the monkey's paw of politics. Guaranteed. Just look what Brexit is doing to Theresa May. It's made her look like, well, a semi-competent politician. And now Theresa May is just being seen as a complete useless politician. And this is what Brexit is. It is that monkey's paw of politics. You've got it. You've got this thing, and it can make any wish. You go, I want this wish to my country, this wish, this wish. The thing is, for every wish, it does like 10 things bad back. So, does Labour actually want to win the next general election? It could be really, really bad. And that's me for the day. That is my talking all done. That is 5 ways that the Lib Dems, 5 ways the Labour, and 5 ways the Tory party can win the next general election. If you represent any of them parties and you've used my tips, then hey, just don't tell me you're a Tory, or I'll be very, very sad. So, people, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for those listening on podcast. Thank you to the person that called me a unicorn. It happens. These things happen. I'll be back next week, of course. If you want to know when I'm recording the podcast and streaming on Periscope, follow me on Twitter at Stevie C. Smith. If you want to support the podcast, check out my Patreon, patreon.com, StevieABZ. I don't have any things set up yet. I don't have any perks or nothing yet. Suggest a perk and I'll do it. I'm new to Periscope. I'm new to Patreon. I don't really know what I'm doing, admittedly. But I do have a merch shop. So if you want to buy t-shirts or stickers or anything, just go to Google, type in Majin Stevie, Majin Stevie, Redbubble, or just click the link down below. And you can find my t-shirt shop. I've got satirical t-shirts, Dragon Ball related t-shirts, some other crap. It's actually really good. I shouldn't call my own stuff crap, but that's just what happens when you're having a bad day on the old words. And today has been a bad day on the words. So thanks for listening. Thanks to everyone watching on Periscope. I will see you all next week in audio form.